Thank you for joining us at the Clive Barker Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe in your favorite place to get podcasts so you never miss an episode. After a long hiatus, in episode 288, Ryan and Jose are joined by Ed and Nina to discuss Clive Barker movie and book news, and then we review 2020. How did it stack up? This episode is sponsored by Don Bertram's Celebrate Imagination. Don Bertram's Celebrate Imagination shop is dedicated to benefiting the Arts and Medicine program at Texas Children's Cancer Center. Up to 50% of the proceeds will support the program where artist Don Bertram volunteers monthly. Don Bertram is a longtime friend of Clive and celebrates and continues to be inspired by his art. He uses that inspiration to help kids through the Texas Children's Cancer Center, and we couldn't be more thrilled to continue to work with him for 2021. There's a news feature video that shows Don working with the kids at Texas Children's Cancer Center and his artwork. Click the side banner at www.clivebarkercast.com to find links to the videos and his Etsy shop, where you can buy his prints, books, and support this wonderful program. Check out his artwork and find out what inspired me to buy The Sentinel in episode 257, Art and Inspiration with Don Bertram. Well, welcome. This is episode 288 of the Clive Barker Podcast. After a long hiatus, we've been working hard on the interview book, and it's nearly done. I know we've been saying it's nearly done, but it's even more
nearly done.
Yeah,
it really is. There's just like one last interview to finish, about 40 minutes, and there's like just another interview that we got to listen to and think about whether it's worth including or not. But by the end of this month, I think we should be already working on the final draft of it to get it published.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Woohoo.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. And as you might have noticed, there's Ed and Nina joining us today again. Ed and Nina from Cenobium.
Yay. Yes, we're
here. Hey, guys. So it's
good to talk to you again.
Yes. Always nice to talk with you guys.
And this is our 2020 in review episode. This has been a thing that we do every year, starting with our very first episode was 2011 in review. And we've been doing this every year in January, kind of reviewing the year before with Clive Barker releases and news and stuff like that. And 2020 was a challenging year, wasn't it?
Yeah, oh, yeah. You're telling me. Holy crap.
Yeah.
2020 for me, it was a year of a lot of change. I mean, I moved from from Arizona to Ohio. I got here and I was trying to get a new job when COVID hit in March. And so I spent three months in lockdown trying to look for a job. Finally, I got a job in the middle of 2020. So I had like 6 months where I wasn't working. It was really hard, touch and go for a while. Man, what a year. Conventions got canceled. Movies got delayed. It was just terrible. I mean, it's been a really hard time in lockdown. But a lot of things were positive about this. A lot of things were positive in terms of being able to have enough time to work on other things. If your relationship has survived 2020, then you guys are going to stay together until you're old,
Yeah.
Because, being stuck at home with your significant other like 24 hours a day or how many days a week, a lot of stuff bubbles up to the surface. A lot of stuff that's... So, yeah, a lot of, yeah. So you get to know the other person a lot better than you ever did. And, but, things are moving up now and we're getting out of it. And even though we're still at a time when there's a lot of people getting sick and there's still a lot of things that need to be handled better, I think that 2021 is going to be a year of wellness. That's my motto for 2021, year of wellness.
Yeah,
what about you guys?
That's what they say in chiropractic too. Wellness.
Well, for me, my work has gotten strange. Used to go out in we used to go out in pairs in cars, go to people's houses. I'd get out of the car, knock on the door, and talk to them if they're home, and if they're not home, hang a little card on their door, and then we go do our measurements and stuff and take pictures and leave. But now, because of COVID, we have to be out in the field all the time, driving around, going to people's houses, but we can't get out of the car, and we can't ride with other people, so we have to go by ourselves. And so you pull into somebody's driveway, and they come out like wondering, what are you doing? And we can kind of roll down the window and yell to them a little bit, but we're mostly like not getting out of the car and talking to people.
Yeah.
So they call us, and ask about it.
So the cops are coming.
Yeah. So that part is weird. But for home, we've actually been able to kind of pivot and adjust pretty well. Jennifer's a therapist. And as soon as this thing started, I said, hey, I think you're going to have to look into this telehealth. I've been seeing, all these ads on Facebook for, therapists that are
what kind of therapist?
Online. She's a mental health therapist.
Oh.
I said, you might want to consider doing that. And she's like, no, I don't want to do that. That's too impersonal. And then as it got a little worse, she said, okay, I'm going to do this. And she got herself certified. This was like at the end of February. And so by the time all the lockdowns happened and stuff, she was already set up and she set it up at home so that when Joel's doing school at home, she could be there. And so it worked out all right for us, and she got some grants and stuff. So her transition was pretty seamless, and she's actually doing better now than she was doing before.
Hey, working from home is a great commute. I mean, yeah. I'll give him that.
Yeah, I never got to. I've tried. I applied to work from home, and they turned me down.
Huh.
They said that we can't do our jobs from home.
Right. Well, if it means assessing properties and taking photos and stuff, you could do other stuff. You could process information from records and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And we could go drive to the office, get out of our car, get in the work car, and go out in the field.
Mm-hmm.
But they said we have to come in the office for some reason, which I don't understand. But every other department in our building has had somebody get COVID and then they're closed down for a week. And so far, our department, that hasn't happened yet.
And for you, it's even harder because you have Joel, right? So you have a son, and he has to do school from home, I guess.
Yeah. And when Jennifer has a client, she has to lock the door and turn on a machine so that nobody can hear. So she's here, but she's really kind of not when he's doing his school.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, Sarah, my wife, she works for an Air Force base now as a scientist. And so she also has to work part-time at home. Like they can go to the lab one week and then the other week they stay at home and process the data that they got from their experiments. And basically she took over the office, and I had to move my desk with the podcast equipment into our bedroom where I am right now. But yeah, whenever she's doing a Zoom meeting with people from the Air Force base and stuff, she has to close the door because,
security,
contractor clearance and all that stuff, security clearance. But so it's been strange, but all those people who your employer said, no, you can't work from home. Now it's like, yes, you can. See, you always could. You just didn't want to.
Yeah.
But
for some reason.
Yeah. But so.
I've been really spoiled. I've got an entire apartment for the podcast and like Dungeons and Dragons and video games and all this stuff.
Look at you.
Well, I know.
What?
But now
what are you talking about?
Yeah, we have a duplex. So we live upstairs, and then I have like the downstairs apartment is for the all of this stuff.
But you mean to rent out to other people is going to eventually be rented, or?
Nope.
We've done that.
Yeah, we used to have this was one of our rental properties, but we don't do that anymore. Sold all of the rental properties.
Now you have the podcast center.
Yeah, but
the Barkerverse.
Yeah, so I was spoiled, but we just found out that Jennifer's dad has Alzheimer's, so I think we're going to be moving him up here. No. So he's going to be moving into this apartment, and I don't know how I'm going to fit all this stuff upstairs, but We've been debating like how are we going to do this, or do we build a wing onto the house, or
Right.
Yeah.
They have those portable storage sheds but in the cold it wouldn't be very warm out there.
Yeah, in Alaska.
That would kill everything.
Yeah.
I'm considering moving after this year, 2021. I'm probably going to be moving near the end of the year, because when we moved to this property that we're in now in Ohio, we just had to do it over Zoom with a real estate agent, because we were halfway, not halfway, the other way across the country in Arizona. And so the property was all right. It's not a bad house, but it's a really old house. It's from 1981, and it doesn't really have all the space that we wanted it to have, and it doesn't have all the...
It's not perfect.
It's not perfect, right? I mean, you as a former real estate agent, Brian, you know that there's needs that you have and things that you want to see, and the use of space. Some people like high ceilings. Some people don't mind low ceilings. Some people want to have a living room and a dining room. Other people don't mind having just one room for both. Right. So everybody has their own.
Too big a backyard or no backyard.
Yeah, or you have an acre of lawn that you have to do. And in Arizona, you have a little bit of gravel that you just kind of zen out with.
It's okay to complain about your house. I don't think your landlord is listening.
Yeah, I know. And then there's neighbors and all that stuff. I mean, if you're my friend on Facebook,
You've had trouble with the neighbors. Yeah,
I've had neighbors. I had cops come over. I had knocking on someone's door at 3 a.m, telling them to shut up, and it's just and it's all exacerbated by this crazy crankiness that's affecting everybody in 2020 because of being stuck at home. And everybody's like dealing with it their own different ways. Some people like to party. Some people just like to sleep and get depressed.
Chill, and go hibernate.
And I'm trying to come up with more creative outlets. And Ed and Nina, I want to thank you guys for sending me that tape that you sent me around Christmas time.
Oh yeah, Merry Christmas.
Yeah, thank you.
Old school VHS.
Old school VHS stuff. That's right, Nina. It's Hansen.
Wayne the Dane.
Wayne the Dane Hansen, teaching people how to use how to sculpt
garage
creatures and stuff and garage kits on Sculpey. So I got the Sculpey, I got the tape, I got the tools that I bought from Amazon. Now all I need is actually have the time. The time, right? I wish the day had 48 hours. I really do.
Me too.
It's like, what is this crap of having to sleep half of your life? Jeez.
No, it's what you sleep.
That's what I think.
1/3 of your life.
Yeah, that's 8 hours a night. Yep, exactly. But anyway, 2021, year of wellness. And we're definitely going to see a lot of cool stuff coming out. I'm sure there's going to be a big boom of creativity and economic wise, creative wise. I think 2021 is going to be the beginning of something beautiful.
Well, Ed and Nina, how about you? How has your 2020 been?
Well, mine was my job changed dramatically, but very thankful to have a job if my boss is listening. My job, it changed dramatically. So I really, really had to get more proficient on the computer as far as...
and she works at a chiropractic college, so you all know.
Yeah, so I worked with a lot of chiropractors, and so I had to really up my Google game. My Google Suite game, and things like that, and the Brady Bunch became our daily reality.
Right.
Zoom, if you remember the Brady Bunch opening with the squares,
yes.
So that's our life now.
Yeah.
And but what's really interesting is I used to chiropractors are very friendly people,
and wellness is their motto.
Wellness is their thing. And I was always kind of an A-frame hugger, and they're very huggy people. And I'll tell you, the one thing I really miss with my coworkers is
closeness.
No hugging. When we go back to normal, if we go back to hugging again, I am never going to A-frame or refuse a hug again. I'm gonna
what an A-frame
I'm gonna say,
hug
bring
is,
it
right?
in. Bring it in.
I'm with you on that one.
Really,
is that leaning forward so that you're
you stand your feet are planted and their feet are planted and you put your tops of your bodies together.
Oh, okay.
It's like this, Ryan. You put one arm over one shoulder, the other arm over the other shoulder, one leg around their back, the other leg around their back. You knock them to the floor and you never let go.
Yeah.
That's the worm. But we hug all of you with our mental hug.
Yeah,
the whole world.
Definitely not since you're not hungry.
Yeah, I have to say I have never hugged anybody at work ever in any job. No, that's not true. I think I probably have reluctantly returned hugs in real estate, like at closings.
Well, I'm sure your wife will be happy about that. You know?
But we did a lot of stop motion this year.
Oh, yeah.
Boy, because you need to be home for that. You need a short commute for that. 24 frames per second. So it's been really fun. Ed lets me play with his armor chairs.
My armatures.
So I really like that. So.
So this year was Harryhausen's 100, right?
Yeah, that's one of our special things that happened in 2020 this year was, Ray Harryhausen, if he had been alive, if he had still been alive, he passed away when he was 80. He would be 100 years old, in 2020. And so I knew that was coming up. And prior to that, also for Halloween and stuff, we always try to do something special. Like in years past, we did big giant jobs, like for Google or for, some big client. Dropbox actually was one of our clients one year. Yeah. But, we'd do a big haunted house, for a professional event in a haunted house. And, since my blindness and since, the COVID and everything, we've had a lot of changes and, so one of the things, that we did was we decided, let's do a commemorative stop motion little short, that was dedicated to the anniversary of Ray Harryhausen, 100 years. And, I'm kind of jumping the gun with our, things that were our highlights of the year, but that is one of mine. Like if we have 5 that are Clive Barker related, our 6th would be non-Clive Barker related. It's our Ray Harryhausen short has broke, it's sort of mini viral in our neck of the woods. We've never had a video we made or a short or anything that has broken 5,000, and this one is heading towards 6,000 right now.
Wow, look at that.
We only had one video that got up that high, and we were asked to take it down.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it was a trailer that it was a Nightbreed trailer that we were asked to take down.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I had a video that went up to maybe 100,000 views until I eventually took it down. It was Betty Page dancing to Goodbye Horses. Yeah. Yeah, it went mildly viral in the Betty Page community, but it's not up on YouTube anymore. It's just I took it down.
Yeah. Nina's a big Betty Page fan. There's pictures of her from the 90s with her Betty Page hairdo and everything.
Cool. I used to have unpublished photos of her, but now that somebody else published the same.
Yeah, back in the 90s, a photographer, saw that she was drawing and painting a lot of Betty Page, and he gifted her a batch of these black and white photos that had never been published before. And we were big collectors of Betty Page. We have the Betty Pages, and we've got, tons of books and comics and magazines of all Betty Page related stuff. And she even used to carry around a little lunchbox that had Betty Page on it as her purse for a while.
I'm a big fan too. So we got some news, right, Ryan? Should we get into the news a little bit?
So there was a revelatory interview that Phil and Sarah posted recently. It was a phone interview that they conducted on November 10th, 2020, but then only just posted recently within the past couple of weeks. First, he talked about Hellraiser, right? They brought up this news that he was going to be a producer with the Hellraiser TV series, and she said everybody's really excited about that. And the vibe that I got out of it was that he was feeling really reticent and afraid that it was going to turn into, him getting thrown out of it. Yeah, he said usually the original creators are the first ones thrown off the boat. And he has no reason to expect that it's going to be any different with this one. So I don't know if that sort of portends that he's been having some difficulties already, or if he's just feeling a little pessimistic about it.
Yes, I think he also mentioned as part of his anxiety, his experiences with Nightbreed, and one quote that he gave out of Jim Robinson of Morgan Creek. He says, "I believe in the golden rule. I have the gold, so I make the rules."
Yeah,
Which is kind of like he's a little reluctant about. Certain producers may feel like he's
jaded. He's had bad experiences.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering if he's already had bad experiences on Hellraiser TV series that we don't know about, or if he's just jaded and maybe it'll be fine.
Or what about Books of Blood and the Hulu? What happened with?
Well, they ended up making it a movie, right? They ended up just turning it into an anthology film. So I guess
you had good or bad experiences with that.
I think it was good. I mean, that's one of the things that 2020 had. It's Clive. We saw a return of Clive to a lot of interviews and stuff. And he gave a lot of interviews around the time of the Hulu Books of Blood. And he was doing interviews with YouTube channels and podcasts and stuff. And apparently, from what I read with Brandon Braga and Clive, he had a really good time. And it was great to see that Books of Blood come out in Hulu.
It'll be interesting to see what Clive says about Books of Blood in a year, right? Because he typically starts out really positive about every. You know, he was really singing the praises of Hellraiser 3 and 4. You know, at the time that those were
at the time,
in production.
If he's involved with it and he's getting a paycheck, it's kind of almost. A given that you can't badmouth a project while you're involved,
Yeah, clearly, yeah.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think that he probably was a positive experience, but we'll know 100% for sure, once he's had a little time away from it.
Yeah, to digest it.
Yeah.
So back to this Hellraiser TV show, it's going to be the project that's being made for HBO. So, I'm wondering if it's going to come out on the HBO regular network or the HBO Max thing. Maybe it's going to be on HBO Max. This is just me speculating. But there's a question here that Phil and Sarah asked them. They said, do you think that the time has come for television and Clive Barker? And he's kind of he says, that's the big one, isn't it? That's the
good question.
That's the $64,000 question. I have no clue. The future will tell. I think if I've learned anything from having been involved in a number of different media, it's that none of them are that predictable.
Especially with the new TV, the way TV is now with Game of Thrones and Disney, with all the new changes.
I think that streaming services take more chances in terms of making a season show, but sometimes they also are quicker to cancel a show after a season or two, even if it's like, look at what happened with Netflix and The Dark Crystal. It won what was it, an Emmy?
And
it won an Emmy.
That show was amazing.
And it was canceled by Netflix.
Right. So quality doesn't count always.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what their criteria
HBO is not the same company that it was. They were taken over by AT&T. And AT&T they made this like broad announcement. Hey, all these movies are gonna go straight to HBO Max.
Streaming.
But they made that announcement without talking to the movie studios first. And so the movie studios are like, well, hey, how are we gonna pay the actors and stuff? Because they get residuals and stuff, and
that makes a lot of difference.
Yeah, and so. It's a little AT&T is they don't know how to run HBO, right? They're just trying to figure it out, and it's a little scary. It was exciting that Hellraiser was part of HBO before, and now it's scary because they don't seem to know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody does, it seems.
Yeah.
The whole entertainment industry is up, and who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah,
exactly. I think one of the things that might have affected Books of Blood on Hulu, and don't quote me on this, it's just me thinking, speculating, is that, of course, production for a lot of these shows was affected by COVID.
Yeah.
So at some point, something that would have been, something that would have been initially thought out as a TV show with different episodes, regular episodes, a whole season, they were like, well, I guess we're not going to do. It's not going to be a regular ongoing production because of COVID. So we're just going to wrap it up as an anthology and put it out and be done with it. So I don't know to what extent that happened, but I can't help but think that might have had something to do with it.
At least in the post-production or something. Yeah.
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 Or in the plans for continuing
And the
to make
budgets.
more.
I mean, the money has been dramatically affected in all realms. The money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because sometimes, people don't know, but some of these TV shows may have budgets as high as like $1, $2, $3 million an episode, per episode, not per season.
Yeah,
I mean,
like the Mandalorian and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if there's not going to be a good return on that, then they're just not going to do it.
Yeah.
They also talked a lot in the interview about paintings and drawings and creativity. They spoke about, what else did they talk about here? Oh yeah, they talk about upcoming stories that are going to be published, right? Like Mercy and the Jackyl.
Yeah, which will be a novella attached to this larger volume of short stories. And now I'm forgetting the name of the volume. We talked about it in our last news episode, and I've already...
It's not the Eternal. It's Fear Eternal.
Yes, Fear Eternal. That's it. Right.
A short story collection, yes.
Yep.
Did they talk about the lawsuit at all in the interview?
What lawsuit?
The
for him
Hellraiser rights.
for him to get his rights back. No, they didn't. Yeah, which was a little surprising, but,
Yeah, I
right.
would think that
I
would
think
be
this was done in November, so I'm not sure if at that time the news had come out yet about the...
Yeah, maybe
thing.
he hadn't gotten them back yet when they did the
Yeah.
interview. I forget exactly when that was.
It was in December, I think. Let's see.
Yeah,
it was in the first week of December. Yeah, this was done on November 10.
He didn't know yet, or he didn't announce it to the public
exactly.
yet. So.
Right.
Yeah, maybe they'll talk about that definitely on the next interview that they make. So that I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, like what are his plans and ideas for it, or does he just want to say, hey, nobody else is going to make Hellraiser movies without me being
Right, because it's weird that there's always been the separation between the TV project for Hellraiser and the movies franchise of Hellraiser. Yeah. So apparently, back when they made Hellraiser 3, that's when the producer of Hellraiser 3 ended up getting the rights for TV if he ever wanted to develop it, and he's been holding on to that since like 1992. So
since Hellraiser 3, around then.
Larry Kuppen. So
he played the puzzle guardian in the
he did.
museum or the art gallery.
Yeah.
He puts it in his hands and says, "Take pleasure in it."
Yeah.
Take pleasure. Yeah. And with HBO, I mean, let's see. HBO usually is you can expect some quality because it's premium content, so it's not like Hellraiser on the OC where they're going to get a bunch of 20-year-olds.
Right.
Yeah, but they've had some changes in their upper management after AT&T took over. So
it would look like that Hellraiser Revelations movie if it was going to be like 9021 Hellraiser.
Yeah.
Oh,
like Vampire Diaries.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, I'm curious about that. I would like to see a TV show for Hellraiser. And
the sparkling, glittering Cenobites.
Yeah.
The twilight of Hellraiser.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I made a post a few years ago. I was looking at my memories on Facebook, and I was like, if Blumhouse ever takes over Hellraiser, there would be like a security camera in the Cotton House. There would be like a jittery Frank walking in the middle of the night.
Yeah,
found footage,
and it would be like,
yeah, and it would be like Kirsty would be seeing ghosts in her childhood pictures and stuff like that, and the Cenobites would be like these weird nuns with lots of makeup, and
you would turn the lights off and turn them back on every time you do it. They get closer.
Yeah. Exactly. But then this was years ago, and now that I've started to see Blumhouse and what they've been doing to Halloween, I mean, I'm actually stoked for the Halloween movies.
They've branched out a little bit since then.
Yeah. So I would like to see a return to form to Hellraiser on HBO that would really be something that cares about the material, cares about the franchise, cares about the characters, kind of like what they're doing now with Halloween and Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends and stuff like that. And So that would be awesome. But in regards to the movies, they're directly connected to some people who are working on those Halloween movies. So that's even more.
Yeah,
more
a couple
cool.
of the names involved in the most recent Halloween movies, those names are also associated with the Hellraiser projects, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, screenwriter, I think. I still haven't even seen that new Halloween movie.
Oh, you haven't?
No.
It's been a few years now. It's pretty good. I liked it.
The last new ones I saw were the Rob Zombie ones.
Did you get a chance to watch or to listen to that movie, Ed and Nina?
Which one? The most recent Halloween stuff?
Yeah, the Halloween one where
all I've gotten a hold of is, through YouTube, there have been a couple of podcasts where some of the people involved, like, the actors and, people on the production have made some, YouTube videos and podcasts and stuff. But no,
right.
I can't see it, of course. Yeah. And Nina hasn't seen it, and so I'm not, I want to, sometime when we have free time to talk on the phone, Joe, I want to pick your brain and have you tell me all about it.
Yeah. I want to send you a copy of that and see if there's any I'm not sure if the Blu-ray has any sort of
descriptive audio.
Descriptive audio. That would be cool. Although it would completely break the immersion to see a descriptive audio, and I know this is meant to help people experience the movie, but imagining descriptive audio of Halloween would be Michael Myers walks through the door. Michael Myers looks at a person. Right. Michael Myers raises a knife and kills a person. Yeah. I don't know how that would work.
Well, I heard a podcaster interviews Michael Myers and gets killed, so at least there's that, right? all us podcasters deserve to die.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I want you to, want to just have a chit chat with you, Joe, and have you give me your thoughts and stuff.
But another podcast that got an interesting interview with someone was the Your Creative Journey, right? Your Creative Journey.
That's the name of the podcast, right?
Interviewed Peter Atkins, and we had Pete Atkins last Halloween. And now he's in another podcast, and there's a two-parter, right, Ed? I mean, you've listened to it.
I don't know if the most recent one is a two-parter, but I do remember that, I was listening to the most recent one, and they were referring to the first time he was ever on. And I'm listening and thinking, oh, my God, he was on before. So we stopped listening and went back and listened to the very first time he was on and then completed the most recent one.
There's a bunch of episodes in between the first one and the second one. There's like 8 or 10 episodes in between.
Gotcha. So the first one is episode 18. And this is in the Vaudacity Network, Vaudacity, Vaudacity.
Okay.
Yeah. And he was interviewed by Paul Carganilla and Kevin Gregg, talking about the creative journey and challenges artists can face as they forge their own paths. And one of them was related to a Wishmaster project. Was that right, Ed?
Yes, it seems like the main podcaster guy. I forget which one he is, what name he is, but apparently he's an actor also. And he, during the COVID and everything, like, of course, most actors, they're out of work and, like a lot of other people. And so, he was just referring to a lot of his own work, like I believe he had worked for the Disney theme parks and stuff, like perhaps in some of their live shows, musical shows and stuff, or perhaps even as a character costume walk around kind of guy. But that's what I gathered, from just, one listen to the thing.
Well, I've added it to my podcast queue. I've gotten behind on listening to podcasts because I've been listening to Imagica again. Trying to get ready for our D&D game.
Yeah.
So
right.
I want to make
Imagica
is so dense and there's so much stuff going on that I don't want to screw up and have put stuff in there that's not correct. Even little things like the Anna was supposed to have made the Innovo recede. So does that mean that people can't teleport through the Innovo anymore? I don't know.
You're going to have to make up some of it, I think, on your own.
The wondrous world building of the Dungeon Masters, huh?
Yeah, that's fun part, I think.
Yeah, but I've been working a lot on that, and we've gotten artwork on the characters. Most of it is finished now, and it's looking really good. That's getting me really excited about it. And Jose's almost finished with a logo for it.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
It's a cool. It's like Abarat, where you can flip Jericho upside down and it still says Jericho.
Nice.
Right.
This is a new phase for the podcast.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Let's see how that works. It's going to involve a lot more people than it usually does, but so that's going to be a challenge. But I'm stoked. I got my character.
Something different, just something new.
Yeah, and it's going to be fun for me because I'm green as they come when it comes to Dungeons and Dragons.
My brother Rob into helping with the technical stuff, but he really does not want to be like. He doesn't want to be in the recording at all, so I don't know.
Oh.
He's like, can we just set up a text channel so you can well, that's going to be kind of interrupt me on the video. Just like, just a second, I gotta type. So
yeah, because you want everybody to be like a square on the screen, right? While you're playing.
I think he'll be a voice. I think I can talk him into being a voice. And
the most fun part of this whole situation has been creating our characters and having the artist draw our characters. And I already have my character ready. And what is the class of my character, Ryan? Is it
he's a wizard,
cleric?
Yeah,
wizard.
He's a wizard.
So
a wizard. in Clive Barker terms, he would be a sway worker, right?
Right. So a sway worker Eurythmic from the First Dominion. And I've got blue-black skin and double iris eyes as all pure blood Eurythmics. And this comes from Imagica. This comes from the Imagica stuff. So this is all.
Who's the artist? Where'd you find the artist?
We found her. Her name is Azia.
How'd you find her?
We did a search for our Imagica artwork on what is that
DeviantArt?
called? DeviantArt, yeah. Jose and I, we were on a call together, kind of searching together, and we found this painting she did of the Unbeheld. And we're like, oh my God, this is awesome. So I emailed her and asked her if she would be interested in doing this, and she was. I think she's in Bulgaria.
Wow.
Her name is Asia Jordanova, and she is an amazing artist, and I'm very happy with.
If nothing else, that's a great thing, to be able to communicate with a foreign person, an artist, and have this in common, have this love of Clive's work in common. That's awesome.
And she was familiar with the book because she drew a picture of the Unbeheld, like in the First Dominion when Gentle comes to face his father, the Unbeheld, Apexamendios.
That's right where I'm at in the book, too, on the audio book.
He makes his own body out of the crumbling structures of the big city of the Unbeheld, and it's this gigantic figure where one hand has a lot of fingers, and the heart is beating up against cracked ribs, and there's a big head like a fetus and all that stuff. She made that drawing.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we thought, this is amazing. So she read the book, she was into it, she drew the Unbeheld Apexamendios on DeviantArt, and it's like this is perfect.
He's like
and her style is kind of this. It's kind of like it's hard to describe, but it's got this kind of gothic, like people wearing 1900s clothes in the woods kind of style, and a lot of creepy monsters and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you'll have to use that on the Zoom, on the YouTube videos that you make while you're in the game.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and my character has
the art. Everyone can see your art,
Yeah, and my character has one of those ribbon swords that the Eurythmics had in Imagica. They're not the blade is not a hard straight blade. It's more like a shiny, very thin ribbon that flutters as they like crisscross it in the air. So
I think there's like Chinese swords in some of those Chinese Chasui Hark movies where they fly through the air with swords and stuff, or have wild swords like that.
Oh yeah, and they bend a little bit. Yeah, I know what you mean.
So I'm stoked. I've been seeing like other people who are going to be in the game with us, and I've been seeing them come up with their characters, and I've been checking out their the artwork for their characters, and one of them is going to be really funny. One of them's going to be real funny. I don't want to spoil it yet, but
well, that's very cool because that gives visuals to the game as well.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and we're gonna still put it out on the audio feed, and have YouTube videos,
right.
so people can do either way
to follow along.
Yeah, and
Yep.
so I'm gonna probably voice, because I made I made the start of an opening like credit sequence, but it's gonna also have voiceover on all the text, just to make sure that the audio people will still. It's not just it's not just music, that there'll be actually.
There are some, subscribers that just listen to it every week, with while they're exercising or doing dishes or whatever, and so I'm sure, people will listen to it regardless if it's, an episode where we're talking about a film or whatever, it's like.
But it'll be like Nina said, it'll be Brady Bunch. We're gonna do it
right.
We're gonna do it on Zoom, and everybody will also be looking at their character sheets on the computer or on an iPad or a tablet or something. And then on top of that, sometimes a battle map will come up, and so then you can see like little tokens of the character. And Ozzy has already agreed to make those too.
Oh, cool!
Little tokens like looking down, like an isometric view of the characters.
From a top.
Yeah, and they're simplified versions of the characters, and you can see them moving around and the enemies and what's going on in the background and stuff. So we'll switch to that when we get into battles.
Tactical mapping.
Yeah. So
if you want to really date yourself, you can say that instead of it's going to be like Hollywood Squares.
Right.
Is that more dated or less dated than the Brady Bunch? Probably
Brady
it's more
Bunch
dated.
is older.
Yeah, more. Yeah, it's farther back. One of the cool thing that came out recently is if you're a Rawhead Rex fan, it finally happened. It finally happened, right? Like the original motion picture soundtrack for Rawhead Rex finally came out.
Yeah.
The thing everybody was not asking for.
Exactly.
It's actually pretty good music, and I think that it's been stolen for trailers before.
Oh.
But
that's possible, yeah.
Do.
Yeah. So Rawhead Rex, original motion picture soundtrack, music by Colin Towns, has come out from Silva Screen Records, and that's Silva, Silva, Silva Screen Records. And it's finally out. I mean, I remember we talked about this several times, and I was always saying, I wish that, I wonder if this soundtrack is available anywhere.
Yeah.
And,
right, because you can try to rip it off of a VHS, and then it'll be in mono.
Yeah, and you'll have people screaming over it and stuff.
Yeah.
But finally, it's out. And it's out not just in CD album. It's out in 12-inch vinyl album and MP3 and lossless formats for people who just like digital stuff. So, damn, I need to get myself this vinyl, dude.
Now they need to do the Transmutations one where we can hear the Nicole song.
Yeah, was that Fleur? Fleur? I think that's the name of the band.
You're
Fleur.
beautiful.
Yeah. And this comes from the UK. So the price is in pounds, Great Britain pounds. The CD is $8.99. 12-inch vinyl album, $23.99. That's Great Britain pounds. But if you also want to just get the digital, you can also get the digital in MP3 or lossless format.
Well, that sounds like the shipping will be a lot cheaper.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny because in the cover, I'm just noticing it now. They made a painted cover for the album, and Rawhead Rex has this like skull-shaped blood stain on his chest, and you got the red eyes, and the logo says Rawhead Rex in red, and they made something weird. I don't remember this being part of the monster, but the mouth. He had the big snout that projects forward a bit.
Right,
and he had those.
I've got a model kit. I've got a garage kit.
Oh,
yeah, he's got these big chunky teeth. But then they made a little smaller mouth inside the big mouth.
Yeah, it looks like chattering teeth that they shoved into his mouth.
Yeah,
they're even squared off like human teeth instead of pointy.
I never realized whether or not Rawhead Rex does have a second set of teeth inside his mouth. I always thought that.
I don't think so.
Yeah, right? Because that doesn't make sense.
Version? The movie
version? Yeah. It is the movie version with the mohawk.
And I thought it was corny in the movie because instead of making him have retractable teeth, they gave him retractable claws that would just stick out a little bit farther.
Yes.
Right, like switchblades.
Yeah, what's the point of that? Yeah, it's not like they're... And not even as good as switchblades, because they're already out. They just come out just a little bit more.
on his big sausage-like fingers.
Yeah.
Well, it was a low-budget film, and they have certain budgetary limitations about pulling off effects and stuff.
But anatomically speaking, this second set of teeth inside his mouth makes it so his outer teeth could never close. So that doesn't make any sense.
Well, that was one of the things about the movie. If you notice, like he does never close his mouth. That head that they made for that suit, it seems like the mouth is in a permanent grimace of and that's it.
He's
also got cattle skulls on his shoulder pauldrons.
Yes.
Which is
my model kit does as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'll send you a picture of the model kit so that you can check it out.
That's cool. Maybe he used it. Maybe the painter who made this cover actually used that as a reference. That would be a possibility. Yeah.
I want to sell my model kit anyway.
Hey, if you put it up on eBay, we'll be glad to spread that around for you.
Okay.
Wow.
Anyway, so Rawhead Rex vinyl and CD and digital soundtrack is out. Perfect companion for your Rawhead Rex 4K Blu-ray restoration.
It's got 15 tracks on there.
Wow.
Yeah. It's going to be awesome.
You think about it, and that main opening title theme is what I always think about, but I can't picture any of the other music right now.
The part where Rawhead pisses on the priest.
Yeah.
You can actually preview them if you go to the Silva Screen Music website and look for that.
And Ed, that track is track number 7. It's called Minty Gotta Pee.
It's true, yeah. It should be called Asparagus Gotta Pee. Anyway. So that's cool, guys. I mean, 4K restoration for Rawhead Rex, and now the soundtrack came out in 2020.
Yeah.
The film
what a
Clyde
year.
loved to hate.
We're being spoiled, guys.
Yeah.
And the SST Publications in England has announced on Twitter that the poetry book by Clive Barker, Tonight Again, went out of print, or is going out of print by the end of February this year. Yeah. So for people paying attention, Tonight Again came out in 2015 in the US. It was released by Seraphin. It was a small hardcover book with a couple of stories and a lot of poetry.
And it was on Subterranean Press, right?
Subterranean Press, that's right, yeah. And then in 2018, SST Publications released it in the UK. So now they're announcing that it's going to go out of print by the end of February. So this is a good chance. If you don't have it and you're listening to this in England, this is a good time to go to sstpublications.co.uk and buy yourself a copy.
And I've been reading where people have been paying high prices to buy the out-of-print US version, the Subterranean Press version, but you can still get this SST version that's not out of print yet. So, just pay a little bit more for shipping.
Yeah.
And also, this was 2020, I believe, was the year that NECA brought out their ultimate Pinhead, deluxe new figure, I believe.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. That was I saw someone on Facebook. They just got that. I think it was Derek Neal
Kyle
from Configuration Boxes.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
and Kyle too.
Kyle Hart got one.
Yeah.
And was that from NECA or was that from McFarlane Toys?
It's NECA.
Ah, okay. So they're still doing it.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah. I don't know what else they're going to do, but they did do. Remember, they did a Nightbreed. I believe a Dr.
Decker.
Decker.
Hey, it looks really cool. I'm looking at it right now, and it's very accessible. It's in stock for $29.99.
Price. Yeah.
And I've been seeing on Facebook a lot more posts with those pop He-Man style
Funko,
pinhead
Funko
figures.
Pop. Oh, the big muscular ones.
Yeah, they look like.
Oh yeah. They were a short run of.
I don't think they were that popular. I don't think they were popular.
They weren't. No. I know the one you're talking about, Ryan. We talked about that when it came out.
Yeah,
I forgot.
A couple of years ago, I think.
I forgot what they call it, but that line has
some sort of ultimate figure or something.
Savage World. That's the name of the line. Savage World. It's Leatherface, Jason, Freddy Krueger, Pinhead, and Michael Myers.
Yeah,
super muscle bound.
All done with that WWF muscle bound look.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Freddy Krueger's sweater is just like a sash across his chest, and he's got a hood. And then Michael Myers has no sleeves, and he has these like leather blue. What do you call them? The things that go around your wrist. Bracelets. Yeah.
Oh no.
And and Pinhead is just this weird hourglass, muscle-bound creature with big chunky nails. I think it works for Leatherface though.
The Ultimate NECA one, I believe, has like a removable, cape. Pants. A skirt. Like, in other words, he's got like a fabric skirt or something, like a vinyl skirt on the
for the Ultimate one, the Ultimate Pinhead.
Does that mean you get to see his feet? No, nobody knows what Pinhead's feet look like.
Yeah, I'm looking at them right now. It looks just like regular shoes.
Yeah.
I'm assuming anti-slip shoes because of all the blood, so you got to be safe at home.
Right.
Extra grip.
It also comes with an alternate head. So there's one head.
2 heads.
One of them is grimacing, and the other one is just him looking like, his mouth is closed and he's just serious and strict.
I prefer the closed mouth Pinhead, because the only time you ever see Pinhead going like that is either on a poster, the photo on the poster and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, and in the later sequels when he's yelling at people and preaching at them.
Yeah,
yes.
and chopping off heads, which Pinhead shouldn't do.
Yeah, exactly.
But man, for $30, I'm surprised I haven't got this yet. I need to get a copy of this. I need to get
they sell out. It's like these figures, they become hard to get after a while.
And the face's sculpt is really good. It looks just like Doug Bradley. It really does.
Sometimes now they're using computer technology like scanning and 3D printing and things like that. I don't know about this particular one, but they used to have to sculpt everything by hand, just with a really good portrait artist, doing a little sculpture. And sometimes they use a shrinking technology where they might make a sculpture of a guy like a fist size, but then they get a shrink, and they make it down to that, like the size of your thumb,
Yeah. There's a name for that sort of thing in the old days, and I know this because I was very much into bronze engraving and stuff like that, and my grandfather was a goldsmith, so I know about this stuff. There was a device called a pentagraph. A pentagraph.
Yeah, a pantograph, yes.
Yeah.
Where it's got a needle type tool on one end where you can draw it along on like a small figure, and it'll make a giant, same exact figure, only giant, 3, 4, 5, 10 times larger,
Yeah.
I worked for a bronze sculptor myself for a while. We did a giant draft horse project up in Auburn, California. And, we did all the molds, and I went to the bronze foundry and saw the way they cast all the investments of the wax pieces and all that.
Right.
It was very interesting. But yeah, you're right. There's a pantograph device. But nowadays with 3D printing, they can take a sculpture that's created in the computer only with ZBrush and such, and then they can make it into any size. You can make it life size, like your own head, or you can make it tiny, like the size of your fingernail,
Everything's digital now. I can't wait for the time when 3D printers are going to be as common as having like a regular, paper printer in everyone's household. That's going to be a great time.
Yeah, the way laptops and stuff are now,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one you could mount under your cabinet, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And you can just download like, hey, I like this statuette. I'm gonna print it out in my little 3D printer, and
exactly.
And you do it overnight, and the next morning you got the little statuette, and it came from a 3D file. So yeah.
Well, I buy a ton of D&D figures from Etsy that are from people like that.
Yeah, and I know lots of people that are currently already doing it. They're very creative people. They've always been like on the edge of doing, stuff with 3D printing and computers, and like even makeup artists are definitely doing that now. They're even, believe it or not, they're printing the mold instead of just printing the little figurine and then making a mold off of that. They're actually printing the negative part of it by making the mold with the 3D printing, and then you can cast silicone into that 3D printed mold to create prosthetics, facial prosthetics and masks and things.
That's fascinating.
And they're limited by how big the printer is.
Not necessarily, because not only do they have giant printers now, but they also can devise things up into portions, sections,
That's
and
what I was
then
gonna say.
you graft it back together afterwards.
Yeah.
Awesome stuff. So that's the news for this episode. And now I guess we can go into 2020 in review proper.
Yeah. So Clive Barker related stuff. Who wants to go first? What is your favorite?
I guess we have 5 points for each of us. So I guess we can alternate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So just pick one.
Okay. I guess I can go first. I was very happy in 2020 to see the conclusion of the Imaginer book series. Volume 7 and 8 came out.
Yeah, you guys did a great job on those.
Thank you. And we did the episodes talking about the books and reviewing them with Marcus Williams, who's a member of our
insight. Had a lot of insight.
I know. He's also a big collector of Clive Barker artwork. He's an artist and the poet himself. And he unfortunately couldn't be in this episode, but I think he was vacationing somewhere in the hotel where Stephen King wrote The Shining.
Overlook.
I've been shocked by how many days he's been staying there, because it's like, whoa, you're still there when he posts about it?
Yeah, it must cost a fortune to stay there.
I forgot the number of the room, but he's in the number of the room.
217, I think.
Yeah, that Stephen King stayed when he got inspired. Yeah.
The lady in the bathtub room.
Yeah. So I was really happy about Imaginer. I remember when the first book came out and it was all crowdfunded and stuff, and it seemed like the end of it was so far away. It's going to be 8 books, and wow, they're going to spell Imaginer at the end because each book is going to be one letter. And it was just such a pleasure to be able to go through all those hundreds and hundreds of paintings and talk about them and let people who didn't have the books or couldn't see the books also get an idea of what the paintings were like. And it was a magnificent series, and I hope that we see more art books in the future. So that was my...
And that's going to inspire us to this year to go back and look at the previous art books, like the Illustrator 1 and 2 and Pandemonium and
That's right. And I got a copy of Pandemonium in the mail this week. Thank you, Ryan, for getting me that copy.
And we have the Illustrator books, the black and white ones, and Clyde used to just do everything with pen and ink and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and those and Visions of Heaven and Hell, the art book that came out in like 2007 or 8, I think. 2007, I think. Right around the same time as Mr. Begone.
So it was great to see Imaginer come to an end, and by when I say come to an end, I mean arrive to completion and become this beautiful project that had a beginning, middle, and an end, and it's an archive.
Put a bow on it. Yeah, they finished it up with class, and now they're moving on to even more cool projects.
So great job on that, Phil and Sarah. You made 2020 a little more special.
Absolutely. They did a great job. You can't fault them.
No, not at all. So Nina and Ed, do you guys have one to start with?
Well, just to start with, let me just compliment you guys on those Imaginer episodes. As a blind person, just in case everybody out there doesn't know that, having a podcast where you discuss art books and talk about paintings is not that unusual or crazy. I loved it. So just to put a bow on it for you.
We had some debate about doing that, and we were nervous about it because it's like, how do you describe art?
It's good. I mean, I think that's fantastic,
Well, thank you. Awesome.
Thank you for saying that, yeah.
So we had made a list, and 4 out of 5 of our list is identical, me and Ed.
Okay.
So Ed, do you want to talk about one of those 4, or?
Well, I'll start off with, and these are in no particular order. But, of course, what jumps to mind, first for me, which was a fairly recent one, was Pete Atkins back on the show. Yeah. That was a high point of 2020.
Yeah, that was a great episode.
It's always great to talk to Pete.
And I think that I don't know what your guys' analytics were for the podcast on the, iTunes and all that, but on YouTube, it got a lot of views. It's like, 300 something?
It's the same for the podcast episode. That one was a little higher than the others.
And I think that's obviously showing the love for Pete,
Yeah.
And then building up to it, was all of the talk about, the things that were coming out, like Morning Star being read by Doug Bradley, and, the fact that Pete and the Rolling Darkness review was on YouTube, and, just a lot of that stuff building up to Pete coming back on the show was a big high point.
And I want to thank you, Ed, for helping to set that up as well, because you reconnected to Peter Atkins.
Right
in 2020.
Around his birthday and my birthday.
Yeah, right.
And it was wonderful because you used to be able to pick up the phone and talk to Clive Barker. You used to be able to interview Peter Atkins for Cenobium and years ago. And it was great that you were able to reconnect. In person
too, like all the time. Like we would go. I mean, the convention circuit was every year. Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con every year. The LA Weekends of Horror every year. Like we didn't even have to leave our state. I mean, we did. That's how I met Nina. Is going all the way across the country to go to New York for a convention and Chicago and stuff. But it was just such a wonderful circuit. That every year we'd see him all again. Every year.
I met him at the Fort Ackerman convention in summer '93 or Memorial Day '93.
Pete, right?
Pete, yeah. Yep. Yeah, I was coming down the escalator and he was going up the escalator, and we were on the escalator and he was with Stephen Jones, I think. And he said, I wonder if any of those people from Cenobium are here. And I was holding a Cenobium in my hand. And I heard him say it. And I was like, hello! Like Lenny and Squiggy. Hello!
That's great.
And the rest is history.
That's wonderful.
So that's one for me.
All right. Well, mine is not a surprise and probably on other people's lists, but the announcement for the Hellraiser TV series on HBO. Despite my reservations about AT&T taking over HBO and then making crazy business decisions, I am still really hopeful that this is going to be this will be something really special or really good. So we'll see, but I'm really excited about it.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
I know, man. There's like a page on I remember seeing like recently a page that said Hellraiser HBO TV series release date, trailer, and plot for the Pinhead show. And of course, there is no release date and there is no trailer, but it has a little bit more of information. Says that production could begin by late 2020 with a premiere as soon as late 2021. And who's writing and directing is Mark Verheiden and Michael Dougherty. So, Michael Verheiden's credits include Battlestar Galactica, the Daredevil TV show, which I haven't seen, but I've heard good things about it.
I liked it.
Yeah. And
also he's a big comic book guy. He worked for Dark Horse Comics on a lot of Alien comic books and stuff like that too. So
yeah. That's a good catch there. Yeah, of course. And Dougherty also worked in X-Men United, Godzilla King of the Monsters, and Trick or Treat.
I'm a big Godzilla fan too.
Yeah, so they got some experience when it comes to action and horror and stuff like that. So and David Gordon Green is going to direct the pilot, and that's the guy
who did Trick or Treat, the film Trick or Treat.
Exactly, and he also directed the 2018 Halloween reboot movie, and he's going to direct the upcoming sequel Halloween Kills. So there's a connection there.
Good genre people.
So maybe the Cenobites are going to kill a podcaster.
I hope not.
We should see if we can be those people those podcasters that
would
get
be
killed.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, welcome to the Hellraiser Podcast, Hellraiser heads. I found this box that someone sent me. I'm going to open it up in the air.
Oh,
Clive let me and Diane be extras in Lord of Illusions.
Oh, yeah, right. Yep, in the crowd at the Pantages.
Yeah, at the Pantages, the magic show.
Yeah, and also shout out to the actual Hellraiser podcast. We like you guys. I was still.
Oh yeah, the English one. The
British. yeah, with Peter and Phil.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you guys did a co project once.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, they wanted to interview us about Occupy Midian, and I'm like, hey, we do a podcast too. Can we also use the same episode?
Yeah, share.
Yeah.
So that's something to be excited about. That was also in my list, so we can scratch that one off.
All right.
Yeah, that was on my list too. So there's 2.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, because that was a podcast where we all did a roundtable discussion, and we had a bunch of people on that one, and we all just gave our opinions and shot the shit. And, it was I like that format of just like open discussion on a big can of worms,
And we even got a pinhead in there. We brought in Paul T. Taylor.
Yeah, Paul T. Taylor.
Yeah, that was fun. And it seems like that must have been before COVID because I don't remember that being a topic of discussion for that.
I agree. Yeah, I think so.
So it must have been pretty early in 2020.
And it seems like that was a popular episode too, I think, on the numbers.
Yeah, what do we call it? The big Hellraiser remake discussion show or something like that.
Something like that, yeah. Because it was the brand new subject. I mean, nobody had heard that Hellraiser was going to be back, and all of a sudden, bang, so we had news.
Yeah.
Am I next?
Yes.
Okay. So the second thing on my list, and this is completely, there's no order to this, but it was that despite COVID, despite the lockdown, despite all the cancellations and all the, delays in movies and conventions, Clive was out there. Clive was doing interviews. He had 2 revelatory interviews in 2020. He did a lot of interviews on YouTube and with other podcasters for like Hulu, Books of Blood. So it was great to see Clive get out there and do interviews through the internet and put out a lot more, stuff about it.
He did an Ask Me Anything.
Yeah, on Reddit.
It's the Barker is back.
Yeah. Reddit Ask Me Anything on their subreddit. And it was great to see Clive just put himself out there, put his projects, how he feels about things, what he wants to do, and how he's feeling in terms of like his health and all that stuff. So that was great to see Clive put himself out there. And I'm going to add another thing here. The fact that now there's an official Clive Barker store.
With the T-shirts and poster prints and all kinds of cool stuff.
Yeah, it's on Threadless. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes, the Threadless Clive Barker. It's clivebarker.threadless.com. So all licensed stuff, all stuff that Phil and Sarah came up with, and great products. Go check it out.
Yeah,
all Clive Barker all the time.
Yeah.
Yep. So Ed and Nina, what's your next one?
Well, let's see. Can we jump to the one that I had that was different from Ed's? It was the Exorcist, the Exorcist 3.
Oh, the Peter Blatty.
Yeah, that we did that. That podcast was like one of my favorite podcasts this year because the research we did on it was so much fun.
I know.
So much about Friedkin and Blatty
and the other stories.
It was really interesting. And
I feel a little bad about that one because I feel like we should have listened to you guys and watched the original version instead of the director's cut.
Oh,
after seeing it, of like, I like the original. Now that we've already made this decision, I kind of like the original one better.
Yeah,
well, that was part of the thing that was interesting was being able to have both, to examine and also, the whole thing about. I'm blind, but of course, when I was sighted, I saw those. I saw the theatrical version and everything. And, in hindsight, once we did all that research, I see why they did everything the way they did it. Like, in other words, the budget was a certain limit. The way that the original version had fewer effects and wasn't, like they had to add all those effects and stuff to to please the audience. Like the producers, it was like Morgan Creek or something. They had to say like, well, where's the bang at the end? Like when, like the chariot race, come on.
Exactly. So they wanted to have that big exorcism with like lots of flashing lights and wind and all that stuff and drama.
And some special effects.
Yeah.
But it
and
was
the
a more
director of the
exciting
movie.
for that.
Mm-hmm. And the director of the movie was known for making movies that are, how should I say, unorthodox. I mean, if you look at the other movie he did with the
only other movie he did,
the Asylum with the military people there, and
what's the name
of that movie? The ninth, not the, darn it. No, I forgot.
I can't remember the title of it either right now.
You young folks, you'll be here someday.
But it had all these great people in it. Stacy Keach and
the Ninth Configuration.
The Ninth Configuration.
Yes.
And it had that actor that played Herschel from The Walking Dead.
Exactly.
And it had a lot of good actors in it.
Yeah. So his movies are always very challenging and very complex and multi-layered. And so when it comes to The Exorcist 3, that kind of complexity, I guess, stumped some of the producers, and then that's why it ended up being a little having two different versions at the end. But yeah, that was a fun thing. That was a fun non-Clive Barker thing that I enjoyed in 2020 as well. That was really good.
And I think the breaking away from, like bouncing back and forth and discussing things like from the A to Z book, the book of films that Clive was inspired by and stuff, is a great compromise on the podcast, so that every single week, you guys don't get burned out about only talking about books or, films that Clive either wrote or directed or whatever. And he's been inspired by a lot of these films. And so to talk about those films, I think is a great, diversion. And obviously the fans like it too, because you can see it in the numbers,
Yeah, and they're the most fun for me to when I go back and listen to our own episodes. Those ones are the most fun for me to listen to.
Well, I think you're backed up by, obviously by the numbers. People, view counts and stuff can't lie,
Yeah, and that was actually on my list. Just the A to Z commentaries in general,
Yes, they've been very successful.
Even when I was annoyed watching Edward Scissorhands again, it was fun to do the commentary with you guys.
And it was fun for us to have your opinion be like that, because we can't all just be yes men and always agree about everything. I like that the variety of opinions.
I think that does help. Let's go on to your next one, Jose.
Okay, my next one. Clive Barker got the Hellraiser rights back. So that was a big one from 2020. We found that out in the first week of December, that the
lawsuit.
Yeah, exactly. That Clive had finally filed for getting the rights of the movie properties back. And he did. The judge ruled that he should get the rights back. And
but doesn't that take effect now in 2021?
Right. So he doesn't technically regain the rights until December 19 of 2021, as per the judge. So
it's only domestic rights, correct?
Right. Only domestic rights. So it's still unclear what would happen with the international rights. And as far as the Hellraiser movie and HBO TV show, that those shouldn't be affected.
Where did you find that from?
So basically from all the articles that came out, right? So this had to do with that same lawsuit that the creator of Friday the 13th, Victor Miller, did. After 35 years of publication of a written work, the writer can file a motion to regain the rights within a certain time period. And so he decided that he wanted to...
He took them to court and he got his rights back.
Yeah. And I remember there was a judge that tweeted something about this when that happened. That's how we found out. And I don't have that open right in front of me right now. But in any case, the conclusion to that is that Clive Barker had the ruling done that he is getting the rights back in November the December 19 of 2021. So we don't know exactly what that's going to affect the movie project. It's not affecting the HBO TV project because he's already an executive producer in that one. And it's not really, I don't think that affects the TV show, but definitely will affect the David S. Goyer production of the Hellraiser movie, unless they can find a way to finish the entire production of that movie in 2021
1 year. Yeah,
until December, which I don't know if that's possible, but we'll see.
Or they could decide to make it good and get Clive Barker involved with it.
Yeah,
Right.
that would be the perfect solution, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird
it's
that
a wait
people
and
fight
see.
so hard to make a movie, a Hellraiser movie, without Clive Barker's involvement in it.
Yeah. Who knows what's going to happen with that?
Yeah.
I have to wait and see.
I hope they bring him in as a producer because it looks like this project has a lot of talent involved. And I'm not going to lie, it is very interesting with the people involved in this movie project, with David S. Goyer project. I would like to see what they would come up with, but I also want Clive to be involved with it. I want that to be something Clive wants to see happen.
I know, to be a fly on the wall in some of these meeting rooms, I would love to know.
And
I know.
I think that for people who aren't like hardcore fans following this news all the time, it would be easy to get confused with two concurrent Hellraiser productions, you know.
Heck, I'm confused sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. And I get confused. I forget which one, you know, which producers are making which ones, and I mix those up sometimes.
Yeah, but
Easy
great.
to do.
Clive sold those rights for what, $900,000 when he made the first Hellraiser?
Yeah.
And then those rights have been bounced back and forward between companies.
Or no, it was $10,000. I think that $900,000 was the budget of the movie.
Okay, wow.
Yeah,
So-
900,000 was not what they gave him.
Yeah, I think
Right.
he just got $10,000 for that.
Dang,
Hellraiser rights.
that was cheap.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm curious. Curious about what's going to happen, and I'm very happy that Clive got this ruling that he gets back the rights to Hellraiser. So this will give him much needed income, and it will give him an opportunity to have a voice in the Hellraiser franchise, if we can still call it a franchise. But I would love
The
to
intellectual property.
Yeah.
exactly.
Well,
Because let's be honest, we want to see Clive's brand of sexuality and you know
His
vision.
his head. What
Yeah.
His
goes on in
visions,
his
right?
head.
I mean, you guys know that because you guys for years ran Cenobium, and you had artwork and stories in there that was much, much edgier and much racier and much more
couldn't
adult,
publish it now.
yeah.
much more adult than anything that the movies ever came out with. And it was like, that's what Hellraiser should have been.
Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff, the visuals that you wanted for Hellraiser. That's the thing that, you know, make
What
it,
the fans wanted.
yeah,
Even
make it
now, even still, even
sexy
now,
punk
we
rock
would-
and
we would
roll.
love to make fan films and fan art and comic books and things to, even though I'm blind, I still want to be creative. I still love the universe, the world, all the worlds, the Nightbreed world, the Magica world, all the universes.
It seemed like the last 15 years, things have started becoming much more sanitized in certain ways. And I'm not just talking about, social justice stuff. I'm talking about
I know exactly
sex.
what you mean. Like
I'm talking about sex. Whatever happened
Hellraiser
to
first came on the scene,
Yeah.
it was transgressive.
yeah,
and
whatever happened
society
to
has changed so much now that
Right.
it's really hard to shock people, like with
Yeah.
films like Saw and the Hostel films and things like that.
they bring the violence, but they forgot about the sexiness, the sex part, right? They forgot about bringing that sexual tension. I don't want to say the sexual violence, but that
It's not
sexual
just
tension
sex.
to horror.
It's many levels. It's many things. It's I know what you mean by just using the word sex. It encompasses many things, but the S&M, the
Raciness.
all the weird, quirky, bizarre shit. Like when Clive got involved with Hellraiser 3, he wanted them to add the weird creature that comes up from the ground and put Terry Farrell in the bondage gear and make this weird monkey spunk coming out and stuff. I mean, that's Clive. Clive is
Right.
so unique. That you can tell when he's not involved.
People forget that in the actual Hellbound Heart novella, Frank is on the floor masturbating and ejaculates on the floor as he dies, and he's taken by the Cenobites. And there's like a Cenobite with tongues splayed across her like thighs and all that.
Yeah, the androgynous lead Cenobite.
And there's scarification, and there's genital mutilation in certain ways, or genital modification and body modification and all that stuff. And none of that stuff really made it to the movies in
any of the sequels,
minimal way.
The way it should have, yeah.
Yeah. It's always like, no, they're more like, they're just bound in this leather, but it's like you don't really see any flesh, you don't see anything, and there's not really any sexual or kinkiness to it. There's nothing. It's just, here are the chains, and they go into the hole and they disappear, and we don't see what happens to them. Whatever happened to, taking chances and showing like elaborate tortures and showing how that would affect people in different ways other than the obvious, I'm in so much pain, this is terrible,
Yeah. So I mean, I understand what happened with the low budgets and the bad producers and everything, with Dimension. But at least somebody, Gary Tunnicliffe and Doug, tried with whatever little amount of leverage they could exert. Yeah, they tried to bring some good stuff to it, but it just was too little, too late. And you can really see, like, I mean, I'm blind. I didn't see Judgment, but I listened to everything I could about it, and I know that Gary was trying, but it just, he can't do it. He's not Clive,
And you look at those, I mean, Hellraiser Judgment did have a kind of a return to that sort of stuff, where you see the choir of ladies that are there, and you see like the guy eating the pages of the book with the sins, and then puking.
Yeah, I don't know if Clive would have gone that route, but
right. And then blood splashing against naked breasts and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, that's a little more the Hellraiser that I wanted to see. A little more like raciness, a little more kinkiness.
Yeah, Gary was trying,
Yeah. He definitely was. But
and previous sequels, they weren't trying. All the other
the other writers, the other scripts, the other directors, the other producers, they just wouldn't let him have, like what they say with the horse, like let him have his head, let him go,
And as much as I hate Inferno, at least that did have like the scene with the twins putting their hands under the skin and
their
rubbing
long
his muscles.
Tongues. Those were pretty cool Cenobites,
Yeah.
But you go back to Cenobium and the splashes and the drawings that fans made and the spreads that you guys had and that stuff. That stuff I wanted to have on my walls just to shock people. If they come in and see that thing on my wall, they're going to be, holy crap, look at that. It's like,
not to mention you just get to stare at it yourself. Like I personally, I would get out all the cool art books and everything, and just, before I became blind, I don't know why, but for some reason, I think I just had to fill my brain with as much imagery as I could. And I was always staring at stuff like that and drawing stuff like that and making things,
People forget about the origins of Hellraiser that came from the pages of the magazine Piercing Fans International Quarterly.
Right.
The work of Fakir Musafar.
The skin magazines that they had in Europe, the rubber people that made rubber costumes and suits and, bondaging and
I was a big fan of the mod blog, the body modification blog. I got into that stuff because I was a Hellraiser fan and I wanted to see more stuff. It kind of awakened me. I didn't see it as fantasy. Of course, I saw it as like, this is something people actually do. This is something people do, like suspensions and all this stuff. I remember as a kid, I got fascinated. I think this is true for a lot of people, although a lot of people will just be repelled by this stuff. But even the Native American Sundance, the ritual Oki-Pa.
Yeah, the Tai Poussin and the hanging from hooks.
Yes, where they would hang these brave Indians coming of age, turning into...
Yeah, Richard Harris made a movie called A Man Called Horse where they do that in the film.
Yeah. And I remember being a kid and having this sticker collection about the West. And one of the stickers was the Oki-Pa, the Sundance. And I was looking at that stuff. I was like, holy crap, look at this. They would hang themselves off of hooks and be there for hours, like, and get into a trance and have visions and stuff. And that was I think that's the first time I ever saw something that violent and realized that's a way of change your consciousness. That's a consciousness change technique. Body. And then Hellraiser just brought me back to that stuff. And I was like, oh yeah, there are these people like to pierce themselves and stuff. And I never.
And men of the East, who do these crazy things. And
I always thought that Hellraiser was a perfect vessel to bring that stuff into the story and not just make it like a boring, guy.
The exotic, the world of exotic.
Yeah. It's pain and pleasure indivisible. And it seems like the later movies always focused more on the pain and they didn't bring in the pleasure into the picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just didn't understand it. The other filmmakers just didn't get Clive's psyche.
Yeah. Or they think of it as perverted in some way, like
it's bad.
Yeah. How many of them just did a clone of Jacob's Ladder and it's like, oh, you're in hell, but you don't know it.
Right.
That's going to be a big twist at the end. It's like, how is that a twist at the end when you just did that on the last 3 movies?
Exactly.
Right.
Or they've been doing it for decades, O. Henry endings, Twilight Zone endings.
Yeah.
You begin to anticipate that. You begin to feel it coming. And, that's not good. You don't want to second guess and know what the ending's going to be before the ending happens,
Yeah.
So yeah, but I don't want to monopolize the conversation. I'm just happy that Clive got the rights back to Hellraiser, and I want to see what happens going forward in 2021.
Yeah. So I think, Jose, we gave you 2 in a row after our technical difficulties. So I'll do the Books of Blood movie. So I know that we're seeing a lot of negative comments about it online, but...
Well, you guys didn't do a spoiler cast yet, did you?
No, and the reason is because it's still only in North America. So there's a bunch of Clive Barker fans all over the world that still can't
who haven't seen it,
or they can't legally watch it, I guess I should say. But people were disappointed that it's not purely based on Books of Blood stories. There's a whole new. It's almost completely new stories because even the Books of Blood wraparound is different enough. But the central story, the main one in the middle, is a completely new story that Clive Barker worked out with the producers, and so.
I don't think a lot of people realize that.
Yeah, and I think that they were blindsided a little bit probably. But it's a good story. I mean, I thought that was really well done. This has got it had a nice budget. It was well made. There were just a few issues like Jose and I talked about that we didn't like. These bookie loan shark characters we didn't care for. Yeah.
The third part of the movie was could have been a little different. It would have made it a lot more powerful in the end if they had changed certain things. But it was great to see the return to the mainstream of Clive Barker's properties, and especially something on Hulu.
Yeah, and that also brought him back to all these other, like the AMA and, Ask Me Anything and the, being more involved with interviews and things. Barker's back,
Yeah. That was a lot of fun.
Ed and Nina, what's the next one you guys have?
Well, for me, one of the highlights is, like you were saying, the A to Z's of horror, and some of the fun ones, have been like Killer Clowns from Outer Space. That was a great one. So that's one on my list.
That was fun, and it was only my I guess my 3rd viewing of it. And I'd only seen it recently.
And I apologize to people who have a clown phobia.
Yeah. It was fun doing research for that one, too, because the Chowder brothers are such
they're so fun. Masters. Yeah, they're such fun guys. 3 brothers.
Yeah.
Like on the Stan Winston School, they do some classes, and the 3 of them as a group is really fun. Like how one will walk into the scene while the other one's talking,
lecturing.
and they just kind of like play off each other. You know,
they're like I believe they're Italian and they're from New York and they grew up in like Brooklyn and stuff, and so a lot of their personality and their attitude and stuff comes across in their person, when they're in person talking. And we discovered a bunch of cool things on YouTube around that time when we were doing the research. Like they did one of those they screened the film for all the cast and crew, and the three of them, had the Zoom meeting kind of thing, where they have little squares and you can see, I'm blind, so I couldn't see, but, Nina saw that they had the actors, they had the three brothers. And then they did another thing that showed up on YouTube where and we put all this in the show notes, that they had a screening in Los Angeles where they actually got, the Chiodo brothers actually got some actors or some, crew people or somebody to put the costumes on and walk around in person in the audience for a big in-person screening at a theater in LA. And they also, did like a Q&A.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, and they had like a special anniversary, I think it was 25 years or 30 years or something like that, because all these films were made, in a similar time frame to Hellraiser. And, my early film too, The Dead Pit that I made, now almost, 30 years ago as well. And so it came up, that in interviews and in more information that they are possibly going to make a new, like either a TV series on one of these streaming channels or a sequel, another film or something, like, because they own the rights, I believe, or maybe Lionsgate or MGM, I think, owns the rights. But, there's been enough fan interest and, resurgence since the anniversary and such. Oh, and the Dickies band, too, the punk band, the Dickies, who did the soundtrack, and they made a
opening song, right?
Yeah, they did a live concert performance with the guy who was the composer. Yeah, made the composer of the film's music, did a live, full orchestra, playing of the music live also. And so, some really cool stuff came about because of that episode. I hadn't, seen the film in a long time. I saw it when I was sighted, and my film director of the film that I made, The Dead Pit, he worked on it, and so did the producer Jamil Everett, Brett and Jamil. They worked on it, and a good friend of mine, Ralph Miller the third, is a special effects guy who he worked on it as well. And it wasn't until after we did the recording of the podcast that I called him on the phone and talked to him, and he told me a whole bunch of tidbits of information about, what he did, on the film and stuff. So, it was great. I love that one.
Those A-Z commentaries are always such a good learning experience. Because some of these movies for me, they were just a movie that I saw years ago. And then I have to go back and I do a little bit more of a deeper dive. And you always come up understanding the movie a little more and you learn stuff. And it's like the first time that I saw The Killer Clowns from Outer Space was a late night session. And I do want to push people to go listen to that episode and go watch the movie and follow the movie with our commentary track, because there's so much good stuff.
And the show notes are full of cool stuff.
Yeah. And I remember the thing that impressed me the most was that those makeups were so good. They were like, cartoons in a comic book. These are cartoons translated into like 3D and real life. And it's like, how do they do this? And I was so amazed
30 years ago. So long ago.
Such a great work that they did with those makeups. It's unbelievable how well it holds up. Yeah.
Sort of a golden age of practical effects.
And low budget, too. I mean, that's what I really appreciate about, the Hellraiser films, the early, the original Bloodline. I mean, from Bloodline backwards anyway, that the effects are practical effects, are really a thing that I love, as an effects guy myself,
Ryan, you and Ed pretty much did all the stuff I had on my top 5. So I guess you should go next.
Okay. Well, my next one is seeing all the cool stuff that Little Spark Films did in 2020. They got to help out with the screening of Hellbound for the last drive-in with Joe Bob Briggs. And we got to see the Torturer finally. We'd been hearing about it for quite a while, and they finally created a final version of it, and we got to see it, and we had giveaway download codes for our fundraiser, Fundraiser 8 Sellworld. So
right.
Yeah.
Right on. Yeah. Shout out to Sellworld.
Yeah, and then we can just talk about that too, because that was also on my list. Fundraiser 8 Sellworld was really fun to do. You guys were Ed and Nina, you guys were really involved with it this time, which was and we went off in some different directions. We had some other cool stuff to do to add, and the Cenobium T-shirt has been was a big hit. In fact, the T-shirt store that we have, T Public, it just had a sale. So and I didn't get on it super fast, but I'm like, hey, there's 5 hours left to buy one of these T-shirts, and people probably didn't even realize that we had that because it's the first time I've advertised it. But we sold 2 more Cenobium shirts.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Good job, Nina.
Yay.
Your beautiful art of Nyx, the Puritan.
We had fun doing the little video edits because
Oh,
Ed was like, "Don't we have a hook?
Yeah.
Don't we have an arm?
I have an arm. We can make a quick Candyman's arm.
Yeah.
You know.
How many people have both a hook and an arm stump laying around the house? Let's get those two
And some
together.
fake blood.
Yeah.
Fake blood. You know.
And that was it a Candyman board game that you guys
Yeah.
supplied?
Yeah.
And a lucky fan
Rarity.
got that stuff. So what an amazing item that we had to offer, thanks to you guys. And you guys were so generous with your time, and thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
We love it. It's our pleasure. I mean, I would, of course, if I were sighted, I would do even more, but the thing is that, whatever we can do to help, it's like with it fundraising or being on guests on the podcast or, whatever, like we love you guys. We want to help,
thank you. Yeah. And we appreciate it. It's been awesome. Yeah. And that's what I was thinking about when that sale came on. I'm like, hey, I should send these Cenobium shirts to Ed and Nina.
Well,
do you guys have one more moment of 2020?
do you have the list?
Well, we did Devil Rides Out in Species.
Or did we already go through it?
We didn't do. We didn't mention another one of the A to Z of horrors that we really enjoyed was the Species episode, where we got to talk about H.R. Giger, who I love.
Yeah.
I mean, if Clive Barker and Hellraiser stuff are, of course, one of my favorite things, then, of course, Alien and H.R. Giger is got to be, along with Clive Barker and Hellraiser, one of my most favorite things in the world. And, I mean, if you were to look around our house, we've told you before that one of these days we're going to use, like the FaceTime or something and pass the camera around the house and show you some of the collection, because we have full-size Alien Giger heads and we have full-size Alien Giger costumes. We've got, model kits and, collectible things like H.R. Giger himself, was a friend of my friend, Steve Leba, that guy who worked on the Hellraiser comic books that we've talked about before. And he got us a fax, directly from Giger, when he was designing stuff and faxing it all from, to Steve Johnson's effects shop for Species. He started getting into ballpoint pen and doing things that had a fax machine, use crazy faxer at midnight and 3 a.m. and stuff. And so we got an original framed piece of art, which is a fax from H.R. Giger, signed, and it's dildos designed. That he came up with.
Straight from Switzerland.
Yeah, and they look kind of menacing, like they have, like they could kill you.
I want to use that.
And I think between the two, when we did the Alien commentary and the Species commentary, the Alien one might have been a little more informative, but the Species one was more fun because it's a good balance of interesting stuff and fun stuff and then goofy stuff to laugh at. And also, Alien doesn't really have goofy stuff to laugh at like Species does.
Look at the counts on that one. For the YouTube video counts, that's up there triple digits.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Hopefully not just people thinking that they're watching Species.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
It's interesting that I am a Clive Barker fan and a hardcore H.R. Giger fan. You're a Clive Barker fan and a hardcore Giger fan.
Yeah.
And Ryan, were you also like a Giger fan?
Oh yeah, I had Giger. I basically wallpapered my room when I was a kid in H.R. Giger stuff.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Cool.
So I wonder if there's like a little area in our brain that kind of flips on, and all these like different artworks end up being we're drawn to this stuff, and
Clive himself, of course, with the 1884. Like obviously, like the genre fans, we have lots of cross connections, and that's what we all love about each other. You love things that I love, but then there's things that I've never heard of that you talk about and that you tell me about that I learn from you, or vice versa. Like the podcast in of itself, turns me on to things that I didn't know about, that we'll go search it out on YouTube, or some like a different podcast will tell us about something that's related. There was that one time when we were listening to something that was Clive was at, I think it was Stygius Film Festival in Spain or something, and he was doing this talk, and we had never heard about that talk, and we found out about it,
master class that he did.
That was awesome. Stuff like that.
Yeah, that's the connections. That's the good thing about the podcast and being part of a community of people, is that you can connect to them and you learn stuff from each other, and that's the beauty of it.
That's what I loved about Cenobium was, it was like your podcast, what you say, by fans for fans. Yeah.
And then Cenobium had so many creative people and so much fan art, fan fiction, articles that would
comics. We did our own comic books.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. There's some issues that the comics are in the labyrinth, Cenobites and characters. Yeah.
Because I only have a few of those, but that's awesome.
Someday we'll have to reprint it all into like a what do they call those?
Omnibus.
Big fat volume.
That would be awesome. Yeah, just one. A big trade.
With crowdfunding,
publishing with your book.
With crowdfunding for sure, those things would definitely be a possibility. So that's a project that's something to think about. Yeah,
think about for
absolutely.
The future.
Because there were
how
many years did you guys do that?
Ideas. I have lots of ideas. More T-shirts, more sculptures, more commemorative plaques. And
how many issues did you guys do? Was it 20, 21?
Close to 20. Yeah, it was like 15, 16 actual regular issues, and then 4
some half issues,
supplemental issues that were quarter or half issues.
It got up to 15, and then there was 2 half issues. 15, 17,
and that was for years and years. Like when was the Cenobium Zero came out? When, like 88?
Right after the first film.
80, yeah.
Wow.
And you guys did the last one.
Well, the first film was still in theaters. Is when issue 0 was produced.
You guys moved pretty fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing, because back then I can't imagine how many people were thinking, "Oh, those creatures are called Cenobites."
Yeah.
I mean, I guess Frank does say the Cenobites in the movie.
Right.
And
if you're going to do your homework, then you go to the Hellbound Heart, and you find the Books of Blood, you start researching.
Well, and back then the Hellbound Heart was only available in a magazine.
Right.
Yeah.
Or actually, it wasn't very long after that Clive read it on an audio tape. Remember, there was a cassette version.
Yeah, it's abridged, but yeah.
And that's what we got a hold of early,
I
very
have that
early.
too. I actually ordered it from a bookstore when they gave me like a dot matrix printout of Clive Barker books that they had in their warehouse. And and it was like, and I saw that, I'm like, $17. That's got to be a hardcover, because I didn't know, and so I ordered it, and it was a book on tape. And at first I was mad, but like now I'm glad that I have it.
Yeah,
it's pretty rare.
Clive himself reading it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, there's that dramatization of the Hellbound Heart that Paul Kane worked on, and that one was also pretty good.
Pete's voice is in that.
It is Pete Atkins. Yep, exactly. Yeah. So
I love how when Clive reads it though, it's like the Cenobites. They are here.
Yeah, because he's making their voice completely without any sort of intonation. They're just kind of drone like, right? Yeah, what city is this?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
I mean, he is an actor himself,
Sure. Okay, so I guess one thing about 2020 that doesn't have anything to do with Clive Barker, but was meaningful to you. Ryan, you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah, so this has made a big difference for me, and it's gonna sound petty, but I don't care. I got a new computer, and it's one of these new M1 Macs.
Cool.
So it was like just little things like and I bought a 4K TV for my monitor, so I can fit like 10 things on the screen all at once. So but anyway, so I was rendering the video version of the intro for our Jericho Squad 77, the D&D game. I've been working on a video of that, and I wanted to make a rough draft to show everybody. So I started the render, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to the bathroom and get something to eat, and I'll come back when it's done. Before I got out of my chair, it was finished.
Damn.
Wow.
Yeah, so,
There you go.
Night and day difference.
yeah.
Is that the one that has the front that looks kind of like a cheese griller or something?
No, that's a Mac Pro. No, I got a Mac
Pro.
Mini. It looks like a little
Cube.
little square. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, yeah, that's it's always great to have a new computer. Yeah. When last year my laptop, my 11-year-old laptop finally gave up the ghost, and I got this nice blackened glass metal cube with like colored fans and stuff. I was like, this is great. This is great stuff. Now I can do stuff I never did before.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's wonderful.
That's awesome.
And something about you guys for that 2020 that was meaningful to you in 2020 that.
Well, I think we both would agree about it is, our creativity projects, like helping you guys with the Kickstarter, the creativity projects we did for that, like the little commercials, the video commercials sort of stuff that we produced, and the Ray Harryhausen thing that we did, and her, Papa George and Ducky productions we've been doing in our spare bedroom here. We've turned into a little studio, tabletop film studio, and we've been doing stop motion, and we've been doing, making projects, being creative.
Have you guys seen? You guys used the devil from Legend in one of your.
Yes.
Did you guys see that there's a new commercial out about Match.com where someone dates the same demon from Legend?
Oh my God.
No.
Have you seen that? They brought back that makeup. It's amazing. I think it's a Match.com.
Is it Meg
Yeah.
Mucklebones, the sea witch kind of?
It's
The swamp witch?
No, it's a regular girl ends up matching with Satan. And
with
Prince of
Legend.
Darkness.
Yeah,
Legend
darkness.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh.
with the guy with the giant, the
Horns.
angular red face and the gigantic black horn.
Tim
They
Curry.
brought back.
Yeah.
Tim Curry.
Yeah, they play that. Yeah, but they brought back that makeup for this Match.com commercial. It looks amazing.
Wow.
And if I find it on YouTube, I'll add it to the show notes. But
Okay.
I just wanted to bring that in because I remember you guys used darkness in one of the Papa George and Ducky videos.
Yeah,
So-
the Hellraiser one.
Mr. Darkness.
I haven't watched
I
broadcast
have a
TV
collection.
in 9 years.
I have a nice collection of. I've got Meg Mucklebones full size head. I've got that huge figure of darkness. I believe that one even talks. Right? I think there's a button on that one, like the Chatterer and the Pinheads that NECA made, where the Chatterer goes and the Pinhead has all the different phrases that Doug Bradley says.
Oh, that's cool.
The
The bigger one. Yeah, the bigger one.
Yeah, the giant darkness and the giant Pinhead. I collect so many of those kinds of things. That's why Nina got into making her films, because she saw these things all sitting around the house. She said, gee, we could use these,
Yeah. Creative projects, man. They keep you sane.
That's correct. That's
Yeah.
correct. And, being, recently became blind and everything, if I hadn't found some way to continue to be creative, I wouldn't be alive anymore right now,
Yeah.
It's what keeps me alive, basically. Makes me get up in the morning.
That's wonderful. That's what I'm trying to get into with sculpting and stuff. And
you'll love it.
2021, man.
Thinking about doing a podcast episode after we've been down for a month got me all kind of worked up, and I woke up at 4:00 this morning.
Wow.
I couldn't sleep.
Wow.
Gosh. All righty. Well, and
if you
for
ever
me,
want to talk when you wake up in the morning like that, call us.
At 4:00 in the morning.
I have crazy hours. I'm up at all hours.
Okay.
And Rob, I want to mention Rob too. Rob Ridenour being back in the fold and coming back for an episode.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, Rob, that you're not with us right now, but I know you would have had some great episode choices as well. And I know one of yours would have been a highlight. Would have been Pete coming back as well.
Yeah, I think so
too.
Rob
really likes Pete, and I, just another good point I wanted to make was that Rob's review of Pete's story, the Return of Boy Justice, that review I read, listened to Rob read it out loud. I really appreciate and like the fact that some of the news items that would be put up, on the website only, for sighted people, you guys got around to letting Rob, read things like that. And I heard, the audio version of his review before I actually got to see listen to Pete do it on the Rolling Darkness review, listen to Pete read it himself. And he literally made me cry. It was such a touching story.
And go check out the Rolling Darkness Review channel on YouTube. You got Glenn Hirschberg and Peter Atkins reading amazing stories from their little chapbooks and that they wrote for the Rolling Darkness Review show when it was still an itinerary show. So go check that out on YouTube. It's a gold mine of amazing stories.
Can't highly recommend it enough.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, wonderful, man. I mean, 2021, year of wellness. That's my motto. And if one last message for me is that 2020 taught us that if there's one thing, it's man's hubris that has been destroying, our chances of living a meaningful future in this planet. And definitely people keep thinking that we can just keep on using this planet and eating wild animals and doing all sorts of things without any consequence. And it just does not happen. We get put in our place every time man thinks that he can just roll around nature and not care. And the jungle and the forest out there still can fight back. And unfortunately, sometimes there are viruses that come out. Sometimes it's, it's a whole bunch of things that can happen, but we really need to be more careful and be more respectful of our environment because life is fragile. And a virus can just take millions and millions in a blink of an eye. And this is not the story of planet Earth is not the story of man. We're just here for a short time in the whole history of the planet. It's a story of life, and we need to be respectful about life in general and not just think that, well, if we get extinct, then we can take the planet along with us. And that's not the way to go about it.
And on that note, I also want to just say, looking forward to 2021, it's going to be creativity blooming. Let's be positive.
Yeah.
So, coming up next, we got more news. We're going to be doing an a review of the art book Pandemonium. We'll be doing A-Z Commentaries again, Eye for Innocence, and the movie Bad Seed, which I've never seen. I think I only read about it in Clive Barker's A-Z of Horror, but I've never actually seen it.
It's chilling. And also, just congratulations, you guys, on the great successsul, the fundraiser.
Well, thank you.
That was a very successful campaign, again.
It had very exciting moments.
Yeah.
I know.
It was
every
fun.
year.
And because of that, we get to get artwork.
Do another year
for Jericho Squad 77 as our next thing that we're going to be doing probably around the beginning of February. We'll have our first.
All kinds of creative projects are going to be paid for with this money you've raised.
Yeah, it's exciting. All right, and this podcast, having no beginning, will have no end. You can find the show notes for this episode and join the discussion over at www.clivebarkercast.com. We've got an archive of past episodes, news, features, and reviews, along with all the ways you can connect with us. You can subscribe on every other place you can find podcasts. Share your thoughts with us, and share our podcast with your friends. The Clive Barker Podcast, or BarkerCast, is an independent editorial podcast and news blog that's not affiliated with or under contract by Clive Barker or Seraphim Inc. This is a labor of love by the fans for the fans.
Thanks for listening.